Welcome everyone once again to another of my tutorial, as I'm about to show you guys how to make your ruffle sleeve. So to how to make your ruffle sleeve, what you will need is 1 yard of organza fabric. That is what we are going to use for this ruffle sleeve. And I have gone ahead to cut one part of my sleeve, and I want to show you guys on how to go about to cut the other parts. So what you will need is 1 yard, and divide your 1 yard by 6 pieces which you are going to cut, and each part will contain 66 inches divided by 6 give you 36. So this is 18 inches which I have here, and this 18 inches I'm going to divide it by 3, give you 6 inches again. So I have done cutting one part. This is the second part which I want to cut, and this is the remaining part which is another 6 again. So what you are going to do is to give it a notch and rip them off. Give it a notch, then rip them. Rip each of the parts which you are seeing like this. This is an organza fabric. You don't do this in all fabrics, please. Do it only on organza like this. So once you are done ripping them off, what we will need to do now is to join them, and make sure the parts which you are joining together is your wrong part. That is what you are going to take note of from now. Any part which you are stitching is your wrong part. So what we are going to do now is to stitch our first layer together, because we are going to stitch all the 3 parts together. So this is the wrong part which we are stitching now. Take note of your wrong parts when stitching. So this is the wrong part. We are going to stitch them together. So this is the 6 inches which I have placed together to stitch, and I've stitched them together for the first part. After stitching, make sure you trim out some excesses, as you see me doing. Then go over to the other part, the same wrong part. Look here, indicate your wrong part. Once you turn it over, you can see turn it over, then locate the ends of your wrong parts, the starting point. So you go there and place the other 6 on it. So make sure you are stitching on the wrong part. Take note of that. So you go ahead and stitch down. So at this note, after stitching down, you trim out again, trim out the excesses. So after trimming your excesses, you go down to your starting point. After locating your starting point, what you need to do now, you are going to fold twice on your wrong part of your fabric. This is the wrong part. What you are going to do is to locate the starting point and fold it twice. A little bit of fold twice. So what you are going to do after folding twice, you stitch down. Make sure you backstitch when starting your stitches, and ending it, you backstitch also to make the stitch tight. So you stitch down after folding twice. Make sure you are taking it easy. Don't be in a haste to do this. Gently. Make sure you are arranging it, folding it twice. So you can see, taking it step by step. Make sure it is in place when sewing. You can see how neat it looks. Make sure yours is also neat like this. Try your best to make it neat. So when you get to the end, you backstitch as well to tighten your stitches. Then you turn over to the other part of your wrong side. Make sure you are always sewing on your wrong side of your fabric. Remember, from the start we made one side our wrong part, which we are going to fold all our stitches to. So that is the wrong part, which I'm going to stitch again from this other part. It is very easy to make. Stitch it down the same way we did for the other part. I'm going to take you through on how to do this. So this is the end part of it. Make sure you don't forget to backstitch at your end point and then at your starting point. Make sure you backstitch to tighten your stitches. Then at the hem there, the 6 inches which we mark, we are also going to sew it twice. After folding it twice, you sew it close to close all our rough edges which we are going to have. After closing these parts, we switch over to the other part which is rough also. We are going to stitch it close. Make sure you trim out your threads so it looks neat. Make sure you take your time when doing this. Fold it twice again. A little bit of twice folding, not much. Fold it twice, just like this, then stitch. So when you are done stitching it, what we are going to do next is to switch our stitch to gather stitch, and we are going to stitch on the right side of our organza. Stitch it down. Make sure you switch your stitch, don't forget, to a gather stitch. The last part, a gather stitch. This is the wrong part of our fabric. We are facing it, sewing it on the right part. That is where we are going to stitch on the right part, and place it at the middle between those two edges which we folded. That is where you are going to put your gather stitch. As you can see, take note of this midpoint because you are still going to need it when stitching on the sleeve. To stitch it all the way down, make sure your thread don't stop halfway. If your thread stop halfway, make sure you lose it all off, then start again from the beginning. Make sure it completes your sewing to get your gather stitch. So we go over to the work table, and I'll show you how to take your stitch at the right part of your fabric. You can see you can see the wrong part, and this is the right part here, which is smooth. So at the right part of your fabric, pull out one of those two threads, the one at the right part of your fabric. That is the one you are going to pull. So pull it to create your gathers. Don't pull it with force, take it bit by bit, slowly pull it just like this to create that gather look. You can see of ruffles is coming out. So at the other end also, you locate your right part of your fabric. You can see the wrong part. This is the right part which I'm locating now to get the other part. Then take the same thread from your right part. That is what you are going to pull. We are going to do our gather from the both side of our end. That is where we are going to pull over to bring it to the middle of it to create our ruffles. So this is how we are still going to apply for the second sleeve. So do it like this, pull them in, bit by bit, pull them in. So you can see how it is looking now. After pulling them, go to the other part again. From the same right part, you can see after pulling the first time, the right part which we pulled out is longer than the wrong part. So that is how you indicate your right part of thread which you are going to pull again. It will be longer than the one you are not pulling. Go ahead to pull it in like this, your organza, pull it in. It is very easy to make. Just follow the proceedings on how to do it. Bit by bit, pull them in, just like this. So when you are done pulling, this is what you will have. You can see our ruffles is out, and what is left around is how to fix them on our sleeve. And this takes a little trick on how to fix it on the sleeve. You must pay close attention to what I want to show you now on how to fix it. This is very vital. So you can see our midpoint of our stitch which we made. I told you it will be useful, so this is what I want to do with it now. At the right part of your fabric, that is what you are going to stitch. So your wrong part should be facing downwards and your right part should be facing upward. Make sure you keep a space for your sleeve stitch, which I'm showing you now. That allowance which I have aside, that is our stitch for the sleeve, which we are going to sew after fixing our ruffles. So you drag your ruffles, make sure it is dragged, don't pull it much so that you don't cut your thread, and make sure you spread your organza which you have drawn your ruffles. Make sure you spread it so at the midpoint of our gather stitch, make sure it is open. You spread it, don't just sew take your time to do this. This needs a lot of time, a lot of focus when doing this. So you take your time and focus to do this. Make sure you spread it and sew in between your gather stitch. After you have created your ruffles, you sew in between your gather stitch. It is very easy to make, but pay close attention and pay close focus to what you are doing to get it right. Make sure you spread it, sew in between your gather stitch. You can see it is spread sideways. You can see both the left and right side, it is being spread, and I'm locating my gather stitch where it passed through. You can see spreading it like this and so it is very easy to make, very easy to make. Just take your time in doing this. When getting a good job done, it takes time to get a good job done, so don't be in a haste to do it. So just take your time. It is very easy to make. So you can see stitching it. Okay, we are getting close to this part. So when you get close to your other part of your sleeve joining, which you are going to join, you give it you divert your, okay, at this note now, go ahead to subscribe, take a break, then come back again. Give it a curve, a C-like curve, to divert from your stitching point which you kept for your sewing of your sleeve. So at this note, you still spread it, take it bit by bit when sewing, because we are going to sew at the upper part again. So we are directing our ruffles to the upper parts. Make sure it is not going far from the first one. It is very close. So we are just drifting our sewing from the sewing allowance which we kept for the sleeve. So just go like this. Make sure you are still spreading it. We are still keeping our stitch which we are taking from the beginning over to the other part. You can see how doing it. It is going close to the end now. Make sure you are still on point, you are still in line. You have to locate your midpoint when doing this. So take it down to the end, just like this. I'm showing you through the processes on how to make it. It is very easy. So just go ahead to give us a try. You can see this is the end. Make sure you are also stopping it, keeping your sewing allowance to join your sleeves. So when you get to the end, make sure you backstitch. As I told you, when you're starting your sewing, you backstitch to keep your threads in place, to keep it stitched and tight, and for it not to lose later. Go ahead to cut, and we are about to join our sleeve now. You can see the allowance which I kept for our sleeve joining. That is what we are going to use to join our sleeve. So we are going to join it together, stitch it, your allowance which you kept for your sleeve joining. We're going to join it straight to the armhole area or the armhole part. When doing this, you must be focused, you must pay close attention in doing this so you don't get to ruin your work. Make sure everything is in place. Pull anything that is coming out in, then take sew from your stitch which we have there, sew it downward, sew it to the end. So I told you it is very easy to make. So as you can see, we are done. Thank you all for coming by, thank you all for stopping by. You can see what we have been making, very unique and nice. You can see the look of it. Just go ahead and fix it. In case you don't know how to make your blouse, I have a video on how to make this blouse which I'm going to fix my ruffle on it. So I will put the link down below in the description box for you to check on how to make your own blouse. So go ahead and follow suit on how to make cuts and